Well, Life Before Alpha, let's see. It starts back in 2015 Christmas. My husband and I, who had moved from Cape Girardeau to Birmingham, only lived there about 5 months, and we were in Virginia visiting my daughter for Christmas when my husband fell out on the floor. So we called, he had had a stent put in his heart in November. So our first thought was, oh my gosh, he's having a heart attack. So called 911, ambulance, fire truck, everybody in town came to the house. After 6 or 7 surgeries, he had been moved now from the 4th floor to the 5th floor to the ICU up on the 6th floor. In the ICU, he stayed. He'd get better. He'd get an infection and get worse. He'd get better. They'd find, an infection in his incision. He'd get worse. He'd get better. He'd get worse. And the whole time, it was a matter of I just never thought he would die. I mean, in the meantime, we had all kinds of friends, all kinds of family. I grew up in a Christian family. I've always gone to church. I've always been a Christian. And so I prayed, like you're taught to do. I prayed, friends prayed, our family, friends, and David had been the president of an international association, so we have friends all over the world. We sent word out, everybody was praying. So it just never occurred to me he was going to die. Well, after 4 months in the ICU, he never came out of the ICU, he passed away. So that kind of blows your faith out of the water. You kind of go, wait a second, what happened? You're supposed to pray, and then God answers your prayer, and then everything's good, But after we bought our homes, hadn't gone back to church yet. In fact, I'd only been in a church twice, and both those times I walked out. I just couldn't handle the churchiness of it, I don't know. It just felt odd to me. So I started watching LaCroix online. I started pulling up the sermons, and I just listened to the sermon, and it just kept going and going until one Sunday I told Erin, I'm going to go to church this Sunday. I want you to go with me. Well, she and my son were both just angry that Dad didn't live, so she didn't want to go. So I finally talked to her. She said, I'll go because you want to go, so I'll go with you. So she came with me, and that Sunday was the first Sunday they put the Alpha up. Do you have questions? She looked at me, I looked at her, and she goes, we're going to go to that. So we signed up, okay. And boy, we came in with both barrels, man. But we just talked. I mean, we just really had the chance to talk it out, and what we discovered was we're not the only ones. God doesn't zap you. He doesn't do that to you. He really does. If something tragic happens, he's right there with you. He pulled us out of so many situations that we didn't see until we were looking back on it. So many things went right. So it was a very, very good experience for us. And the food was great. I mean, Erin goes, I'm going for the good food, but but it got us both coming back to church, walking in the church. When I came back and I started getting the feeling I needed to go back to church, I knew I couldn't go back to the same old church. I needed church on a deeper level. I just did. You'd grown up all those years being a Christian, but you didn't really realize the depth of it all until something really tragic happens to you, and your faith gets rocked to the very core. And then you say, wait a minute, where am I stuck in that circle that I need to come back around and really, really learn about God? And this church is different because you tackle subjects that, you don't come in every day and in the Bible it says blah, 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 and so therefore, everything's good. Here, you go out and you be good. You really do say, no, it's tough. We are going to face tragedy. Life's tough, and it is. You look back and go, but God didn't abandon us when these things happened. He was there all along, and knowing that, something better is always there. So I feel I'm in a good place. Yep. And it's because of Alpha I mean, it made us go in and really, really question, all those things, so it's good.